Hi everyone, and welcome to our Digital First Workplace session at the CIO Summit. My name is Rob Matlin. I'm running our Digital Workplace Centre of Excellence here at Logicalis, and I'm very proud and delighted to have Dean Mills along to speak to us from Anglicare Victoria here in Australia. Together we're going to be discussing the changes that the last 3 years have brought and how Anglicare has addressed those changes and evolving technology needs of its staff and the people it services within the community. I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with Dean over the last few years, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. Dean, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and Anglicare Victoria?
Sure. Well, I'll talk about Anglicare Victoria first, Rob. So Anglicare Victoria is the state of Victoria. It's the largest provider of out-of-home care services for children and young people. We provide many kinds of alternative homes for those unable to live with their families and ensure that they're kept safe and they're nurtured. And my role here, it feels somewhat small, but my role as the Director of Technology here, and first and foremost, I provide the enabling technologies that helps to support the business or the strategic agenda of the organisation. As an organisation, the foundational layer is there. It's scalable, it's robust, it's secure, and our staff have our tools of trade. We've moved many workloads to public cloud across the Microsoft M365 stack.
What have you been focusing on more recently to continue that momentum and continue that drive?
Well, for us, we've got all of the foundational layer that's in, it's stable, it's scalable and secure. And that's the most important thing for an organisation like Anglicare Victoria. But really importantly, the transformational piece of work around digital came about when we implemented what we call our enterprise or electronic case management system. And that's a platform by which the programs that we run with our clients are now first world digital in the one platform with all of the history of the client, all of the artifacts as a result of the client engagement records, and also some of the positive outcomes that we realise in working with these young families and the children within those young families, and being able to report on some of the benefits that we're providing is exciting for the organisation, and being able to extract that is really important. And one of the things that it has done, whilst it is not the application that is the complete single source of truth, it absolutely collapsed the number of shadow systems that we had across the organisation. So when you want information with regards to a client, you know that it's in the electronic case management system. I don't think you can underestimate what it meant for Anglicare Victoria, because if we wound back the clock, say 5-6 years ago, predominantly it was a paper-based organisation.
Wow, okay.
Caseworkers were used to dealing with pens, paper, writing down information while they're talking to the client, going home, entering it into a system. So the administrative overhead associated with that was absolutely massive. So now capturing that information in the moment, real time, has been a significant benefit, as well as being able to report on the trends that are happening across the programs that we run.
How did the frontline workers take it? Was there any pushback initially, and how did you, if there was, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, look, technology only works when you work with people and the change readiness of the organisation, and also creating a little bit of excitement around what's coming and how it's going to benefit them in their day-to-day work. I think we did a pretty reasonable job in terms of engaging those key stakeholders across the organisation, telling the story around what we are looking to achieve, and importantly, they have a very key stake in what is ultimately going to be configured as a platform. So you don't jam the technology in, Rob. You understand or you refine what the operating model is. And we did that. We we refined that operating model. We rationalised the number of forms. We standardised how we'd engage with the various clients across the programs, across the 6 different regions, and feeling part of that, and then them becoming champions, if you like, or advocates. That was a really powerful thing to do. And, in terms of the programs that we have in there and the work groups, which are split by region, we've now got over 114, 115 of those within the platform.
Yeah, right. There's something we see time and time again with complex transformational pieces like this, the ability to clearly articulate, I guess, the outcomes and how they benefit the people involved and then take them on the journey. It really is key to having a good outcome, because so often you see technology being implemented and the technology in of itself can be good, but if the people don't use it and it's not well received, you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's really exciting to see.
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, getting that organisational change management and communication, that's paramount. It's a people, process, technology thing, and also a culture that looks forward to what is coming and building that momentum around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Dan. What advice would you have, outside of that advice you just gave, for CIOs, sort of senior leaders on the transformation journey to make it as successful and get the same level of outcomes that you've been able to achieve at Anglicare?
Gosh, there are so many things that I'd like to comment on. I think the first thing is be part of the business.
Yeah.
You may have a role that represents technology, digital, whatever you want to call it these days, but at the end of the day, being embedded in the business, understanding business opportunities, understanding business problems, and being able to articulate how technology may play a role to provide further opportunity or exploit those opportunities or solve some of those business problems is absolutely paramount. The second thing is make sure that as you run a transformational piece of work, which is all about business, it is seen as a business transformational journey, not an IT or not a technology transformation journey. We're not in business to support the IT staff. We're in business to support the organisation. So walk alongside the business, understand, look at the beacon over the hill. Strategically, where are we heading? What's the mission? What are the objectives? And then understand what's the roadmap in working with the business to get us there, and keep telling that story. And then being able to articulate that in such a way with a language that people understand, and getting some quick runs on the board, if you can, in demonstrating some of those benefits, will give you really good credibility for the license to move forward.
Where do you see digital workspace going? Where do you see it in 5 years?
It's an interesting question, Rob, and I don't think anybody really knows the answer. But there's a few things. I think the days of having these silo-based applications is well and truly gone. It's a fully integrated stack. It goes without saying that it's public cloud. In our case, it's the Microsoft 365 stack. But if I look at elements around security being inbuilt into these platforms, so it becomes a one-stop shop from the one vendor. In the past, I think people have gone out, as we have, for what's best of breed in the market at that particular point in time around what's the best security stack. Well, everybody's factoring that in now. The other thing is around how you heighten that full collaboration experience, the sharing of information, and where you can access that from. But I think one of the challenges that some organisations face is it can be in a number of different places when you move into that type of environment in that new digital workspace. So that's kind of where I see it going, but I can't say beyond the next 12, 24 months because in 3 to 5 years, who knows what's what is planned, and we won't know until it gets closer for release.
Yeah, it's changing very rapidly, but I think you made a really good point about the applications, the communication between applications, and looking at the architecture around those, and being able to have that security built in, so it's baked in, not bolted on to your applications. And that's, you're right, really becoming assumed now, isn't it? When you're buying something, you almost make the assumption that security is forefront of all the vendors' products. So it is interesting how that's pivoting and people are looking at security more holistically.
I think one thing I also should have mentioned is you've got a single pane of glass that goes out to everything that sits within that digital workspace. Access anything through the one interface or the one UI.
Yeah. Moving to that SaaS platform, there is the danger of just having sprawl across multiple different interfaces. So the ability to bring that together and see what's important to your organization, I think is really critical. There's a tendency, I think we find in a lot of vendors now, a lot of platforms, where you get shown stuff because it's interesting, but not necessarily useful. So being able to filter out what is relevant to the business and what is nice to know, but not really relevant, I think is really important as well.
I think the other thing is too, from a technology perspective, if you look at your enterprise architecture, what are your guiding principles around that? So there's a plethora of things out there, but what ticks the boxes based on those principles? And one could be API first, could be what type of API, and getting a level of consistency around, adoption or procurement that meet the guidelines within your enterprise architecture. Otherwise, you're right, you've got a mishmash of everything. And then trying to bring that together is like trying to put a jigsaw together with 30 pieces missing or 20 from another jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, it becomes exceptionally difficult indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dean, thanks so much for your time here today. It's been an absolutely fascinating discussion, and learning about how technology and the challenges over the past few years have really shaped how Anglicare does business and how it interacts with its customers, which are the public, and helping those people. If anyone on this session would like any more information, please reach out to me or anyone in the Logicalis team. With that, I'd like to hand over now to Marty Moore, our lead security architect here at Logicalis, who will be hosting our next digital first story on security. Marty, over to you.